It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Stanford Volleyball Beach Women's Assistant Coach, Angie Rock. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Can you talk about your coaching experience and how you got started?
Well, I think like a lot of retired athletes, you just can't give up the game. And I tried for a while. I was an account manager for a couple of years, and I just hated it. And so, it drew me back into sports. And I was coaching obviously indoor because beach volleyball at that time was not an NCAA sports, and I was coaching pros on the beach, which actually is ironic because one of my first, coaching experiences was with Brooke Niles, who's now the head coach at FSU. So we coached together at UCSB, and then she asked me to coach her on the beach. And then that's kind of how I began coaching on the beach, was with Brooke and her partner, Courtney. So it's been a long time. And I think it's, for a lot of us that are competitive, it's the only natural place for us to be after we stop playing the game.
Can you talk about, of course, your time at St. Mary's College?
Yeah, I was at St. Mary's at 2017. Brooke, we had a interim position available with Rob, and I filled that position, and it was amazing. As a head coach there, assistant indoor, and I think just my experience with Rob, those great kids at St. Mary's, it really was an exceptional experience. I loved every part of it, and I think it was part of the foundation of moving to FSU and then going to Stanford.
Can you talk about, of course, your time at FSU?
So like I mentioned earlier, Brooke, the head coach there, is a good friend of mine, and she was kind of in a pinch and needed a volunteer assistant in 2018. And because her husband was playing internationally, he was the volunteer. You're allowed to actually have a mid-year kind of switch based on USA volleyball players. It's kind of complicated, but nevertheless, I was in California. She said, Ange, just, it's expensive. You got to fly yourself out here. But I really wanted to be a part of it. And so I did that for 1 year, and we won the conference and runner up at the NCAA tournament, which was, I really thought we could win that. It was super close. And then in 2019, I actually was the full-time assistant coach for Brooke again with Jason Lockhead. And it was a great experience. I loved it. It really, I wanted to find that path. I didn't know what was going to open up. I'm obviously here in California. I teach at a community college, Southwestern Community College. I'm a tenured professor there. So I was kind of balancing both those things together.
Can you talk about, of course, your time at San Diego State and what you accomplished there?
Back in those days, we were actually, for a couple of years, we were the #1 ranked team. We never won the national championship. We had 2/3 when I was there, won the WCA, what was it called? The WAC back then. And it was great. I had one of my teammates ended up being on the Olympic team with me, or actually two of them from that time, Leanne Sato and Laurel Bressy. We were all three on the San Diego State team together. Unfortunately, Leanne never, she had to redshirt, but it was still a fantastic experience. That's when the NCAA kind of blossomed. I think 1981 was the first year that the NCAA had a national championship for indoor volleyball. So it was, I loved my time at San Diego State, and I learned a lot, and it was a great transition from, at that time, the national team was based in San Diego. So when I was done with my eligibility, I made the national team. So I was one of the few that didn't have to relocate out of San Diego to be on the national team, which was based there. Now it's in Anaheim, but at that time it was in San Diego.
That's so amazing. Can you talk about, of course, becoming a professional volleyball player and what that was like?
I was lucky. I was on the national team, and Liz Massakayan was it still is a good friend of mine. And she used to always go down to Mission Beach and play. And I had never played beach volleyball until I think I started at maybe like 22, 23 years old. And I instantly, I loved it because it's there's no substitutions, and that's the thing I think that draws me to it even now is I love the mental toughness it takes to be not just a professional, but an intercollegiate or even on the juniors level. I mean, there's no substitutions. And when you're playing bad, you just get every single serve. So I think that's what drew me to it. Liz taught me how to play. When we first we're playing for, t-shirts when you win tournaments, and then the WPVA, which was Women's Professional Volleyball Association, probably before you were even born, but that was the first league, and we were a standalone tour, and then subsequently absorbed by the AVP, which was obviously it's better to have us both on one tour. And I only played a few years on the AVP before injuries kind of forced an early retirement, but it was it's something I look back onto fondly. It was the time of your life, to be your own boss, to do your schedules, to create your own training environments, to have the flexibility to choose who you want to play with. It was amazing. So I think that the women now that are playing, it's a little difficult with COVID and trying to, make a tour happen. And the AVP's done a good job. The international, they're struggling with different, COVID protocols and stuff like that. But I think, it was the reason why we have beach volleyball in college, is because of those experiences and those founding mothers who started those early professional leagues.
That's so amazing. Can you talk about, of course, what it was like being honored by being into the Hall of Fame of the San Diego State and the Pro Beach Volleyball Hall of Fame?
Well, the San Diego State one was I didn't attend the other one. I got kind of I couldn't get to the inauguration of the celebration of the Beach Volleyball Hall of Fame. But with San Diego State, we actually went down to Jack Murphy Stadium, which I heard, now I don't live in San Diego, but I've heard they've knocked down that stadium. So San Diego State is actually taking that whole stadium. So at a halftime at one of the Aztec games, they had all of us coming out for the induction into the Hall of Fame. And then we had a wonderful banquet afterwards. I had my mom there. It was a great experience. I mean, I'm very proud of that. I think it's an elite group of people to be honored and to be one of those recognized athletes from, indoor team. Obviously there's no beach at San Diego State, but it's amazing. It's something I'm very proud of, as well as the Beach Volleyball Hall of Fame. I'm proud of those accomplishments, and that, I get to keep being involved with beach volleyball at Stanford.
Can you talk about, of course, what are some of your accomplishments so far at Stanford?
We've only been practicing, we had a really late start with COVID, the protocols at our university. We've only had, I think 5 practices. So it's, what is my impact? I think you'd have to ask the young ladies, but I think Andrew, myself, and Lauren, we have a great camaraderie, and we work together very well in trying to develop practices that can get them ready quickly. We'll have only, before our first competition, 20 practices. That's pretty low. And so we're battling, our players and our staff have to, we have a very strict COVID protocol that we're tested 3 times a week. We're trying to, get everything in as easily as possible, but it's not that easy. But I'd say my impact, I don't know. I think I just bring a different perspective. Andrew and I think very much alike, and in our, our overall volleyball knowledge. I think that we go about things a little differently. He's obviously younger than I am, and he's very technically advanced, and I am not, and he's helping me with that. But I think he's developed some cool things for evaluating our student athletes and doing stuff in real time that I really admire and I think are beneficial tools. And even today, we're going to use a little bit more of that and see, to put your pairs together, to find your right flight, with ranking your teams from 1 to 5. It's a tricky process because, it needs to be data driven, but then there's always the, the feelings part of it about, do those women like playing together? What are our thoughts on the strength of that team, et cetera. So that to me is what I enjoy the most. I love collaborating with Lauren and Andrew on practice plans, on thoughts. So it's, I don't know, you'd have to ask him. I think that I bring just we're alike in a lot of ways, but a different kind of energy than maybe they've had in the past. I don't know. It's so new.
That's so amazing. Of course, can you talk about, of course, what the transition was like from being a pro beach volleyball player to coaching?
I think it's always hard as an athlete to say, okay, I can't play anymore. And, but I don't know. I think, and I mentioned it earlier, that the highs and lows of coaching to me resemble a lot of the feelings I had when playing, which I really embrace those feelings. I like to feel those emotions, the highs, the lows, the tension, the exuberance. And so for me, the transition was easy, because it's how I had to stay involved in the sport. I love volleyball. I love beach volleyball. I love indoor volleyball. And so for me, it was a natural progression. It's always harder to have your body not do what your brain knows now. And I mean, I think I have to mention, I wrote a book on beach volleyball, Angela Rock's Advanced Beach Volleyball Tactics. And in that book, a big driving force about writing it was that transition to coaching and all the things that your competitors don't tell you how to improve. Things are a little bit different now, but when I played, today's partner might be tomorrow's opponent. So we were very protective of information that we would know about each other. And so when I got to coach some of my friends that were still playing, that were healthier and younger than I was like, gosh, I wish I would have known that when I played, and then I'm watching it as a coach. I'm like, God, I wish somebody would have told me that. And so I wrote the book to kind of get that information out. And then even now at Stanford, just the other day, Lauren was talking about a serving concept that just had not occurred to me. And I thought I know it all. I never think that. I think, I'm always about growing. And I thought, gosh, that would have been great in the book to, the no look serve, and it just wasn't something in my wheelhouse. So that's something that's like, I love about growing as a coach and learning new concepts. And, certainly with the growth mindset that both Lauren, Andrew, and the university have, I feel like I've come to paradise, honestly.
Congratulations on writing your book.
Oh, thank you.
Can you talk about, of course, what the recruitment process looks like for prospective student athletes?
We've been on Zoom for, I got hired September 1st, and we've been on Zoom calls with each other, Andrew and myself, and kind of going through the duties of his duties and what he expects of me. And right now we're in a dead period. We can't live recruit, because my phone, because of COVID. So right now the recruiting process is a lot of video watching. So, there's they have these showcases that they, live stream or what have you. And so that's how we're having to evaluate athletes at this point. We have our 20, 21s and 22s. And now we're looking at 23s, 24s, 25s, it never ends. And, Stanford's unique in one way that I think I never appreciated fully till I got here, is just the rigors of academic acceptance. We can't, we have a 4% acceptance rate from 100 of the best applicants. But as a team, if those same applicants are an athlete that we support, but they have to have all the same standards of, their AP classes, their scores, et cetera, et cetera. So our field is a little bit smaller just because of the academic rigors of Stanford. So that part is, a little more challenging, but it's something, it almost makes it easier in a way, because if they can't, if they don't want that type of rigor, there's a lot of students who, there's perfectly good colleges all over the country. We're just the best as far as I'm concerned. We're the best academic sports combination in the country. You can't go any place like this where you get the education and the sports combined. And, we've won the Director's Cup for 25 years in a row, and that's the best sports programs in the country. So, for us to find a student athlete, they have to want to be here too. And I think the thing I've learned is you can't talk kids into wanting to have a rigorous academic junior and senior year. That's something they have to have that drive themselves. And so in some regards, that's a lot different than other institutions. So I think that's a pretty cool thing, though. I like that. I like that, being associated with that.
Can you talk about, of course, what you plan to accomplish as you compete and coach in the Pac-12?
I mean, our goal is nothing less than to win the Pac-12 and win a national championship. I mean, that's the direction we want to go. I mean, it's clear in my head. Andrew and I have talked about it. We've talked about it with the team. Rome wasn't built in a day, but we're going to, with our recruits that we have right now, I think we stand it, we could, we're going to battle with those teams. We'll find out in 2 weeks, right, where we really stand, but we're certainly not where our current ranking is. That I'll tell you. We're going to be a top 10 team this year, if not even higher, I think, with the talent we have, our incoming freshmen, our returners. I think we're going to surprise a lot of people, but, I think our 2021 recruits, our 22s, we have really strong top classes coming in, as well as our returners. So that's our goal. I mean, nothing less. I mean, our indoor team, our national championships last year, I mean, it's something we see as the only direction we can possibly have. So that's our goal.
That's great. What advice would you give upcoming high school athletes looking to play beach volleyball in college?
I think you have to, when you evaluate yourself, whether it's at your club where you're at or anything, you have to have the realistic expectation of where you can play. And there are plenty of programs out there. And I think I always, I don't know about other assistant coaches. I look at everything that is sent. If it's sent to me, I look at it. I watch every video that is sent to me, because I think, obviously, because of our dead period, I can't see them in person, but you never know what you're going to get. And so you have to sell yourself. And I think authenticity goes a long way. About, I as a coach, I don't receive a lot of them here at Stanford, but in the past, I have received a lot of, they're very cookie cutter type introduction letters. I want to hear about you for, honestly, what do you like? What's, and I've had some really entertaining emails over the past couple months. Obviously we can't write back anybody who's a sophomore, freshman, or younger. So, and that's another thing, you have to understand that we can't correspond with you. It's against the NCAA regulations until you're a junior and senior. So don't be discouraged if no one responds, but go on the websites, fill out the questionnaires. If you have a particular university that you want to attend, do the coach a favor and fill that out, because it's a big country. There's a lot of clubs, and we don't know everybody. We try to see everybody, like I explained earlier, but filling out that, Andrew and I are constantly going through our questionnaires and looking at who's interested in us. Have they attached a video? Have they attached their, we can't request these things, but they're helpful to help us make decisions. Oh, I didn't know there was a kid in Arkansas who's interested in Stanford. Wow, look at this. She's AP, look at her, we can't possibly be everywhere. And so that's what I would recommend. And be realistic. If if you're, top in your club or middle in your club, look at a place where you will fit, because there are places, and the same thing that I've just said about me not knowing everybody, it's the same for Tulane. It's the same for Florida State. It's the same for South Carolina. We can't know everybody. So if you want something, go out there and get it.
That's great advice. What advice would you give upcoming coaches looking to get started into college coaching?
I mean, it's all about starting with the juniors, getting involved with the club or professionals. It's a natural progression. There are some players that probably can skip that step, but there's still always something to learn. And, volunteering, I thoroughly enjoyed my volunteering experience. And, it was a little strange to go from head coach at St. Mary's to volunteer at Florida State, but all those things were stepping stones to staying active in the sport. And I think, that's how I got this job. If I hadn't taken those steps, I certainly wouldn't be here at Stanford. And so I think you have to just be willing to do some difficult things. It wasn't easy to go back and forth to Florida State. I mean, I lived in California. I had to take time off work. I had to, those flights were not cheap, but I figured it was worth it. It was worth it to be there. It's worth it. I sold my home in San Diego to come to Stanford. It's worth it to me, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice because I believe in the program. I believe in the coaching staff. I believe in the student athletes that we have here. I mean, who wouldn't? But that's, I'm fortunate. I've had some awesome opportunities, but that's what I would say is like, hey, when opportunity knocks and someone asks you to volunteer, do it. There's no pride lost in being a volunteer. It's a valuable position. They get to be in the actual coaching box and impact those players. that's a huge thing for someone to ask you to volunteer. It's not like, oh, they want me to volunteer. It's like, hey, we think you're good enough. We only have 2 positions, 2 paid positions. The third coach has to be a volunteer. So, ask people, do you need somebody? It's an awesome stepping stone. And I guess that's what I would leave it at.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Stanford volleyball?
I would follow Stanford on Instagram. I'm not a super active poster. I have some account, but honestly, I really just go through our Stanford Twitter and Instagram accounts. I don't have a big page where I post or anything. So, maybe it's my generation, but I lean into that, and we have somebody helps us out with that. So, and also, you can always write us directly at, angela.rock@stanford.edu. So that's and, if they have any questions, I'm open to answering questions, of course.
Thank you again, Coach Angela, for your interview, and best of luck in this upcoming season.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at @talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.